Very good afternoon, one and all. Today it is my great pleasure that to introduce our speaker, Dr. Yogesh Bachhav sir. He was my senior when I studied in Sada College of Pharmacy. So I welcome you, sir, in our FDP. Sir is Associate Director, Pharmaceutical Development, AICuris, Anti-Infective Cures at Germany. Sir has completed his B Pharmacy in 1997 to 2001 from the North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon, and he has secured first rank in an institution and third rank at a university level. Sir has completed his Master of Pharmacy in the specialization in pharmaceutical chemistry from 2001 to 2003. Institute of Chemical Technology, formerly it is known as the UDCT Mumbai, University of Mumbai, and sir has also secured first rank at the university level. Sir completed his PhD from the Institute of Chemical Technology, also, it is also known as the UDCT, University of the Mumbai. Research, sir has started his career as a research associate at the Sun Pharmaceutical Industry Limited, Mumbai, from 2003 to June 2003 to December 2003. Sir has given his excellence at as a research scientist at Pentec Biosolution from April 2007 to June 2010. Sir has also served his service as an Associate Director, Pharmaceutical Formulation Development Manager at Daibo Farm Group, Switzerland plant from July 2010 to February 2014. Sir has given his service as a development, and currently he is also working there as a consultant at AICuris Anti-Infective Cures Germany-based plant. Sir has published 17 national and international papers in well-reputed journal. Sir has also got the 2 patent in his credit and 6 international patent. He has in his credit 30 conference proceeding, and sir has edited a book series for Willy VCH. Invited as a speaker in several national and international conferences. Sir is the member of Control Release Society USA and American Association of Pharmaceutical Scientists, which is also known as the APS, a member of Organizing Committee of Control Release Society Indian chapter. Sir has delivered his talk in the various countries like as the Switzerland, London, UK, and India also. So I welcome this renowned kinds of the personality, and I also welcome from our FDP team side. Sir, over to you, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon to all. Thank you, Dr. Nautik, for a very kind introduction. I just believe that I'm audible to everyone. In case not, just shout. And with this, maybe I can talk. We'll start with my talk today. Can you confirm if you can see my slides? Natik, can you please confirm if you are able to see my slides?
Yes, sir. Slide is visible. If possible, then sir, kindly hide that bar.
Hello?
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Which one? Okay, fine. Now, okay?
Meet Google bar.
Okay, fine.
Is yeah, that
And
one,
with
sir.
this, maybe I can start. Okay, right. So with this, I will talk my today's talk, upskilling tomorrow's professionals. So when I have seen the list of the talks, also I have seen the faculty for this FDP program. So maybe I'm odd man, out. So maybe I'm not someone from the academy, and then I was really wondering how I should try to really, put something which is related to the teaching methods. because personally, as Naitik was introducing me, I have very little teaching experience. So basically, after completion of my doctoral degree from ICT, I went to Europe and in 2006, and since then I've been working there with different mid-size and, let's say, biotech companies. So the only experience I had teaching when I was with Pantech Biosolutions for 4 years, but they asked me to work in the facilities of University of Geneva in Switzerland, and there I had a possibility to give some lectures. Of course, those were lectures in French, so I had to also learn French, and I was able to at least teach them, I believe so. And then I had to supervise some masters and PhD students. So whatever I was able to figure out, what are what academicians can deliver, and what are industry expectations from the industry point of view, where we are today, what are our expectations from the academia. This is something I have tried to put together. I tried to give the justice to the presentation to my level best, but in case if something is not really fitting, my sincere apologies in advance. Okay, so regarding the contents of today's talk, so very important, we should try to understand the challenges in the skill hiring. What are the gaps between the industry and academics? So basically, there we will try to discuss what academia is able to deliver, what industry is really expecting. What are the training modalities industry using as of today? Maybe one thing I'd like to clarify, maybe I'm also trying to see from the European industry point of view, but again, it will not be very different, right? So maybe the type of research we do in Europe, US, or India may be different, but the way we think is more or less on the same line. And what are the future challenges in the industry? And then there's a need for upskilling for the employees. And that's where then we try to see maybe where academia can contribute, so that we do as an industry, we don't have to spend significant amount of time and money to upskill the future employees. So maybe we can start with the 4Ds, which is quite popular. How these 4Ds can be used to define any problem or to bring the solution to any problematic. And of course, this is on day-to-day basis, it is used in industry. Maybe academia also needs to think about it. And this is something when you have the situation where things change quite rapidly, over the period of time, and then you don't have really time to really discuss and try to come up with the solutions. Maybe something rapidly needed, you can take into consideration of this COVID situation. So for example, when you go for any drug development, typical new drug, I'm talking about generic. So I know that more than 90% of India's research is based on the generic drug development, but if you see the Western research, maybe from Europe or US, they are more into the drug discovery, and that's where I really come from. So if I see the drug development from my point of view, it takes at least 8 to 10 years. Now you ask someone, okay, can you develop a drug for a COVID? And if I tell them, okay, it will take 8 to 10 years, nobody's going to buy this idea, right? So there you need some urgent solutions. And for this kind of urgent solutions, maybe then you really need to think then what is your problematic. Try to define that problem in the form of discovery, what you try to define here, discover. So at least try to understand what is your problem here. And this can be done through the extensive research. Maybe you need to do some market research, user research, design research, and this is, you have some sources available. Through that sources, you try to define your problem. Often you need to really talk to the experts in the field, you need to interview them, you need to gather some inside information, try to put together all this information. Once you have all this information, then you need to define the requirements, what is specifically the needs, or what are the requirements for your problem. And for that you need the data analysis in detail, for example, and then based on that you really try to see then, okay, this is the problem, this is the information I have. Based on, you try to really then align the information you have really acquired, and based on that information you try to design the solution, basically the third DUC. So design solution, basically just try to list down, okay, these are the lists one is supposed to do in order to execute the problem, or in order to deliver the solutions. And once it is designed, can I request everybody to be on mute? Maybe I'm facing some disturbances, so it's my sincere request if everybody can mute. So once the problem is defined, then maybe it needs to be designed in the form of solutions. And last step is decipher, which is deliver. So basically these are deliverables. So for any problems, at the end of the day, there are deliverables. So this is how industry is moving, and this is quite rapid process. As I said before, there is not much time to really wait. And if this is the case, of course you need some skilled employees to really deliver something quite faster. And this is what our expectations from the industry point of view, from the students or from the research students joining industry. And that's how maybe then academicians or academia also need to think, can we change something, systematic way, but not, let's say, needing quite significant amount of time. So how we can really execute the problems in a systematic way. So about skill-based hiring, there was a very popular survey which I tried to list down. So on the survey is about what is the biggest recruitment challenge that the recruiters they really face, and then they ask really. So imagine you're from today in next 12 months, what are the challenges you are really facing in terms of recruitment? And as you can see, the shortage of skilled candidates was 50%. So that makes the biggest deficit, So if industry is not able to get the skilled candidates, naturally it will have some impact on their productivity. So I mean, the best example you can really take, now we had at least 2 vaccines, let's say, approved in India. One is Covaxin from Bharat Biotech. Of course, now we have more numbers, but these are typically the leading ones, I will say. And then Covishield. And we always talk about why, sufficient number of vaccines are not available, for example. And then question will be, then we do not have the production facilities. Why we do not have the production facilities? Naturally, the typical biologics production is not like your small molecules where you just go on producing tablets, capsule, oral solution. In this case, you are dealing with the protein. In this case, of course, it's a dead vaccine, but still it is a protein. You have your downstream processing, upstream processing, and then you go for sterile fill and finish. And for that, naturally, you need a skilled employee who has a desired skill sets, who can really work with this biotech type of compounds. So I can't ask someone who has worked in the production department of tablets for 15 years, hey guys, can you come and help us with the production vaccine? No, this is clear no. And that's where then this deficit of skilled candidates is coming in. I can give my example. I have worked with the small molecules extensively, maybe 70 to 80%. But when it comes to large molecules like peptides, proteins, antibodies, for example, maybe it's 20 to 30%. So if any employee is coming and asking me, are you open to work with the large molecules? I need to think twice. And that's what we talk about, the shortage of the skilled candidates. And I can tell you the future is really driven by the biotech compounds due to the various reasons, maybe I can discuss later. And that's where then the mindset need to be changed. Of course, we'll go into the syllabus details and all, but as a general view, I'm trying to tell all what we have learned through our syllabus. Maybe it's also case in today's syllabus, at least in Indian pharma, the more and more emphasis is on small molecules. We're talking, when I say small molecules, the molecular weight is between 500 to 800. But when I say molecular, the micromolecules are biologicals, then I'm talking about peptides having molecular weight in the range of 1,500 daltons, maybe proteins having molecular weight in the range of 15 to 20 kilodaltons, maybe antibodies having molecular weight in the range of 100 to 150 kilodaltons. I know in the audience, maybe there are a lot of faculty sitting, and they can tell me then how much syllabus in today's, let's say, the university curriculum really covers the manufacturing proteins, or let's say the formulation of proteins against the small molecules. And that answers itself, are we really ready today to face these challenges? On your left, then you see here, based on this survey, then what are the future strategies the industry should follow? And the biggest, you see the 65%, they have to invest in the reskilling of current employees. So you can see the correlation. If they are not able to get the skilled employees from the universities or academia, naturally they have to invest the reskilling of current employees. So when I can take my example, if my industry is really, my employees switching from the small molecules to the large molecules, if I do not have the desired experts, naturally then my employer has to invest in me, so that I should get more and more knowledge about the big molecules of the large molecules, or biotech compounds, as we say. Of course, there are some other areas which we are not really concerned here. Today we are mainly talking about the upskilling. So what is really industry looking for? So imagine I'm hiring a doctoral student. So I don't want to generalize, because I know maybe we are dealing today with the teaching methodologies from the graduates, postgraduates. Doctoral student is more for research, but at least try to understand the concept, and that's my overall idea here. So when I'm hiring a doctoral student, student, because again we are doing research. Normally we prefer to doctoral students, sometimes the master students, for example. I'm sorry. So what are the expectations from the doctoral student? So naturally we expect that his basic should be very clear. He should be able to understand the problems, what a scientific problem is given to him. He should have some basics of the project management, because anyway he is hired quite at the superior position. Maybe he is given a independent project, so he really needs to understand the project management, because for industry it's very important that one should be able to respect the timelines. At the very beginning I said regarding the timelines to develop any drug, and that's very crucial. If I try to give any project which should be completed in 6 months, if that particular candidate is taking 1 year, maybe one more than 18 months, then this is a clear no-go, and this is very important. Then scientific leadership. So it is expected from the candidate to bring the scientific solution. He is given a problem, and to that problem industry is expecting that he should bring in solution, and there is no one to guide him. Okay, there is no spoon feeding as well. Okay, Baba, okay, you have to do that, or how to do. He has to be quite independent. Then it's an outside in approach. Having said that, he has to deliver the solution with some quality, not something me too. Decision making is very important. As I said, he has, or she has to be independent. So if she's stuck somewhere, maybe some method is not working, maybe some formulation is not working, he can't just sit there. Someone is going to tell them that. He has to make that decision how to move at once. Adaptability is very important. We can tell in drug discovery in day-to-day basis, a lot of things keep on changing. Maybe some compound is not efficacious, we don't see any efficacy in the animal model. Maybe some compound is quite toxic, we see a lot of adverse effect. We have to close that project quite immediately, and we have to switch to the other project. And then one can't be really, being a researcher, it's always difficult if any project is shut down. Or because imagine if I work on any project for 3 to 4 years and company says sorry, there's no business model, or maybe there is no value, we have to close that project. It's quite hard to accept as a researcher, because it's like your baby, you have fed that baby for 3 to 4 years. But at the end of the day, it's a business, it's a management decision, strategic decision. You need to stick to that, and that's where the adaptability is needed. Then one should have that mindset of adaptability. We can't just sit on one problem for years and try to find a solution. If it is not working, we should give the way. Communication skills is very important. Today we are living in area, maybe I'm sitting in Mumbai now, but my company is in Germany. On day-to-day basis I have to talk to my German employees. We are doing a filing in, let's say, US with US FDA. We are running a campaign in also the different stakeholders around the globe, and the communication is very the key. And at the end of the day, if you are not able to put that work in a proper fashion, then what's use of that word? And that's where the communication. And from the academic point of view, I can tell also, because at the end of the day, you have to publish your research article good, but if the abstract is not well written, if the manuscript is not well written, then chances of get less. And that's where the communication skills, they come into the picture, and that's one focus should be in the academic setup. And then the leadership competencies, the last one I would like to highlight. If any PhD student is hired, naturally he will be given a team of masters or some master students or maybe technicians, and on day-to-day basis he has to lead that team. He has to get the work done, he has to deliver the results within the time, and naturally he is expected to lead that team in a systematic way. Then what are the problems that the PhDs face when they are trying to enter the corporate life? So basically then they have the capability to work when they are doing their university, or maybe we can also try to coordinate master's student in that case, for sake of maybe the correlation for today's talk. They have work in they have work at the university level, maybe in the research team. There's a mentor student relationship on day-to-day basis. But in this case, situation is quite different, because the industry or companies, they do not have the patience to really wait long. If the given analytical
Hello everyone. I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
I think problem from the speaker side.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
So you need to tell me where it was disconnected. Sorry, because I was just talking to me. So can you tell me where it exactly was disconnected? Slide 5 or slide 6? I believe it is slide 6. Can you hear me well now?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Okay. So basically, I was trying to tell about this slide 6. I will try to repeat. So what are the challenges being faced by the candidate who is entering in the corporate world, or let's say in industry? Then, as I said before, or maybe you didn't hear, that the student has capacity to work and he can lead the research team on the novel project, what he has already done at the university level. But at the companies, maybe things are quite different because the solution is needed quite faster and the company has no time to really wait long. So this is something he needs to adapt. Then second point is a collaborative approach, because maybe at the university level he has to work quite alone. As you can imagine, any person developing a formulation, he will do his formulation, he will do his analysis, he will do his animal studies alone. So basically he's trying to do everything. But it's not the case in the company, where maybe he's developing any formulation, so he will just submit the batch to the analyst for the analysis. He has to get the preclinical results, then the formulations will go to the PK expert or the pharmacologist for the animal studies. If formulation is going for the clinic, actually he has to work with the clinicians. So this is more collaborative approach, and it's very important that the person has got that flexibility to fit within the team. And then of course on day-to-day basis a lot of data is generated, so one should have the ability to organize data in a systematic way, try to really get the important information which should be communicated to the rest of the stakeholders. The goal should be quite clear. One should be able to set the priorities. Maybe one person is working on 4 to 5 projects in parallel, so the person must know then what are the priorities. He must be able to set the goals, that which problem needs to be solved in order to the priority, so that any project is not getting delayed. And most important to see the global picture, so it's not okay, why I'm formulation, so my job is just to deliver the batch, but I should be also able to see, okay, where I'm going to use that particular drug product or formulation at what stage, and if it is not working, what the plan B I have. If it works, what are the next steps? So he should be able to really align that, the stepwise approach, so that the person is not stuck at some point. So it's not that nothing is happening in academia, so we should not really think that, okay, academic research is not yielding anything. So it's quite motivating, of course. So I just tried to put the most valuable startups, they're launched by the students, or where the work was in fact done at the universities. So you can see the leading companies here, the Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Yahoo, list will go on. So just try to put the most important companies, and that's quite motivating. So academia, it's a area you guys are quite lucky that you are allowed to do some basic research. Nobody's really going to ask, let's say, commercial viability. Of course it's important, but if it's failing, then you're still allowed to investigate what's really happening. It's not the case in the companies. So even if I like any particular project from the research point of view, but if there is no business potential, nobody will allow me to do that work. So that's the difference. And maybe sometimes for researchers, it's quite not fascinating. On the right hand side, I tried to list again some inventions which are commercialized based on the university research. The best example we can take Covishield. Basically, the research was done at University of Oxford, which was then taken by AstraZeneca, where our Indian company Serum Institute is also a partner. But at the end of the day, it's a university invention, so it's quite important to note that then that the university research whatever is being done even today, it has got very high value, and that's where we should try to adopt the mindset, what ideas we can really try to bring into the picture, and where we have the huge potential for commercial success, and we are able to fulfill the unmet medical needs if I try to consider from the pharma point of view. And then, having said that, we just try to go back to the education system in India. So when I say engineering technical, of course, it's also applicable to the pharma fraternity, because we also try to really belong to this technical education system. So basically, it's out, let's say the education system, at least we graduated. So we go from, let's say, the kindergarten up to 5th, then 6 to 8, then you have the secondary 9 to 10. Then here we have the level 1 employees. So this is entry level. So it's not really very important, let's say, from the skilled employees point of view. Then you have the little bit higher level 2, where you have the graduates, like not only graduates, but some skilled employees, the ITI. And I also tried to put the training period there. What is the training period time needed by the industry there? So the maximum time they have to spend is really at this level. You can see that this is more polytechnic. So if I try to see from pharma point of view, it is more diploma in pharmacy. Then you have the graduation, the B Pharm and the M Pharm, for example. And this is a level 4 of the professional labels. And here they need extensive training, almost 3 to 12 months or 6 to 24 months. And when they do that, it's very time consuming. It is very expensive affair for the industry. And that's the reason that industry's expectations are quite high from the academia. If academia is able to take those, let's say, the criteria, or they at least try to understand what are really industry expectation, if they try to implement those criteria into their curriculum, if they try to bring those courses already into the academic program, so that will reduce some of the burden from the industry. Industry does not need to spend a lot of time and energy as well as the efforts to implement the training to this level 3 and level 4 graduates. And this is the key message I wanted to deliver through these slides, and that's where the gap is happening, we can say that. And this is the gap maybe one needs to fill when we are talking about the upskilling of tomorrow's employees, let's put like that. About PhD, okay, this is more the again, if I say the entry level position, but as we discussed before, PhD is already exposed to the research problems. They know how to solve the problems. Maybe they are given the independent project, but the level of training needed is not quite high. As I said before, that PhDs already have got that exposure, so maybe it's not needed at that level. So let's talk about the gaps between the industry and academics. So why the training is needed? So just we discussed about the extensive training periods for level 3 and 4. Because to give an example, now industry is growing more toward digitalization. The more and more advanced technology applications are coming in, and there's more, let's say, the events of non-compliance due to the knowledge or skill gaps. The technology is also quite evolving. This, and due to that, then skill mismatching is mismatching is happening, or there is no match basically what we are able to deliver to the industry, what industry is expecting. And when that mismatch is happening, then this is not really fitting together. So to give an example, when we try to learn the different analytical methods as a part of the syllabus, maybe we try to learn the UV, IR, or maybe HPLC, for example. But if I try to see from today's point of view, from the industry, what's happening really in industry. So imagine if I'm developing any small molecule formulation, then Even I don't have time to really look into the HPLC, because HPLC runtime is almost 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'm more focusing on UHPLC, ultra high performance liquid chromatography, where the retention time is hardly 2 to 3 minutes. So it is reducing my overall analysis time by a factor of 5 to 6. Then I'm more focusing on UHPLC. The same about macromolecules. So as we discussed before, so most of the curriculum, as if today maybe it is developing on small molecules, but if it is not really containing the large molecules. And in case of large molecules, if you see the analytical methods, they are totally different. Maybe they are doing the SD-SPARGE analysis, maybe it's a Western blot, maybe it's a fluorescence scan, maybe it's ALSD, and the list goes on. It's quite big. So imagine if any candidate is coming for an interview for analysis of the macromolecules. If I ask him, okay, do you have any exposure on this analysis? Naturally, the answer is going to no. So often the candidates are complaining, okay, they are asking for experience. Why I'm asking for experience? If the candidate is not having that particular exposure, I do not have the time to, it's not question about money, but it's also a question of time. If I need 2 years to train that particular candidate, if my project is delayed significantly, naturally then I'll look for the candidate who is experienced, right? And that maybe that can answer the question often the people are asking, why they are asking for experience, and this could be the reason then. And then when the students are hired, then what modalities we try to use in an industry? So we try to offer them the technical assistance. Maybe they have given SOPs or some articles, lab journals, they can go through it and they try to understand then how the particular protocols or methodologies are getting executed in industry. They also try to understand the culture of communication collaboration. So having said that, how they are required to complete any documentation, any requisition for the analysis, how they try to collaborate within the project teams. So and there is also in-house training with the experienced staffs and managers. Often there are external training, so we try to recruit the external people to train the newcomers. There are also some presentation by suppliers. For example, if I have got the UPLC from Waters, I can also ask the person from Waters to deliver a talk to the newcomers, so how to run the UPLC, for example, then how to use the different technologies. There are hands-on training also, organize some sessions, and there are some micro-learnings on the job training. So these are typical modalities that any new person is joining in, and we expect that he is not exposed to all these things or methods or processes before then. These are the tools normally we try to use to train the newcomers. Then let's try to discuss a little bit about the Indian pharmacy education. So the course is, again, apologies if something is not appropriate. I just tried to put from my point of view. So if there are, this is a disclaimer that if someone does not agree, then that's fine. But I just tried to put from my point of view. I repeat. So the pharmacy courses that are mainly oriented towards the conventional needs of the industry. The contents are not really updated as regulatory reforms, because if you see the regulatory guidance, they are being updated from time to time. So every 12 months, 18 months, you will see some update. Even if you see the ICS guidance, they try to update what is exactly needed. Give an example, often in the drug substance, what is the level of genotoxic impurities? What is the level of residual solvents, for example? And periodically they try to update. Even in terms of analytical method validation, then you'll see some the updates regarding the necessity of the, just to give an example, the method must be validated for the precision and accuracy at the limit of quantitation. So these are quite nitty-gritty details, for example, but these are again quite important regulatory expectations when we go to file the dossier. And this is something then, I know this is not possible to update on day-to-day basis in the university syllabus, but at least what is the minimum expectation that students or faculties, they are aware that all this is happening, and maybe they should be able to find some solution that how students are being informed of all the changes, and is it possible at least to give them this information in some whatever ways available, so that they are updated about the different changes happening in the industry, the regulatory reforms, and also in terms of instrument upgradation. So for example, you are using any analytical instrument in your lab or in the university, it has got the let's say outdated software, and this is no more applicable in the industry. So when any student is joining in the industry, then he has to again get exposed to training to that particular software or particular upgrade of that instrument. And all this information is, information update is very, very important. Second problem I see that we don't know how much theory is again connected to the real practice or the practice we are going to do in the industry. And this is also because we do a lot of theory, but if it is not applicable, is it possible then maybe we are able to see what is exactly needed from the industry point of view, and can it be replaced to the mere theoretical knowledge? No doubt that basics should be clear, but we should try to balance really, when at the end of the day your overall job is really to deliver the skilled employees to the industry. The last one, then it's again, it's more about theories, that the curriculum is fully mugged with the theories in this area rather than focusing more actual practice-based aspect. And then for the students, it's very difficult to connect the theory with the actual practice. So they read a lot, but if, at the end of the day, if they do not find any application, it's also not quite motivating to them. So I said before, then some balance is needed there. And there's a clear disconnect between theory and actual practice in the areas like clinical research. So, okay, we have learned the pharmacology. So there are 4 phases of clinic: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Okay, what typically we do in phase 2? What typically we do in phase 3? What typically we do phase 4? Do we really have all this information in our curriculum? Do really students know? So the growing areas, again, the pharmacovigilance, medical writing, as you must have seen, there are a lot of openings in these areas. They try to even accept the BPharms or MPharms in those particular areas. But do we have something apart from definition in our syllabus for pharmacovigilance and medical writing? And if these are the areas which are able to give the jobs to the, let's say, thousands of the students, so isn't it our job to put something into the education system so that students are very well exposed to these subjects, and when they try to come out of the university, then they already have some basics, and then the industry does not need to put a lot of time to train the students in those particular fields. Second point I wanted to highlight, so there are no practical classes for the different systems like IVRS. We try to use it for clinical research when we try to do the clinical trials, IVRS. Then this IWRS is another system in this case, which is interactive web response system. This is again more when you try to do the clinical trials, and when you try to do the clinical trials, there is also screening of the patient. You try to do the randomization because the overall aim is really to assign the patients to the control group and the treatment group, and this is double-blinded trials when you try to do the coding and decoding, and all these things are quite theoretical then, or maybe there is no exposure at all. So if this is something we try to bring into the syllabus or a curriculum, maybe it's of great help to the students. And what are the flaws in the present system then, because as I see, when maybe I was studying, as Naitik said, I graduated in 2001, there were hardly 40 colleges in Maharashtra. When I did my master's in 2001 at ICT, there were few master's college. Even the intake capacity of ICT was 10. So we were only 10 students allowed to enter the master's program at ICT. Now if I see today, the intake capacity of a lot of pharmacy colleges more than 100 or 120. Same is the case with master. So, I mean, what I'm trying to see, I mean, are we really able to deliver the quality students? Then maybe due to the number of seats are increased quite a lot, number of colleges increased to the extent quite high, then it leads to the entry of unqualified, non-meritorious students into the course, right? And then that leads to the, of course, non-focused, unspecialized way of learning, because we are not able to deliver the particular subject to each and every student. The curriculum we already discussed a little bit before. The educational regulations are different. Maybe these are driven by the PCI or maybe for universities. And there we need some connect between the industry expectations and from the authorities which are drafting the curriculum. Then there's a lack of industry and clinical exposure, and this is also applicable to the faculties. For example, if imagine maybe I have to enter any university, if I see requirements, they always ask that person must have worked at least 10 years or 5 years in the academy, or he must be a professor for a long time. If a person like me, after finishing doctoral degree, I have not got any exposure into the university, and if that is a bar that I am not able to enter any university, if I am not able to enter any teaching, then how students are expected to get the industry exposure? On the other side, if the faculty sitting here, if they did not get any industry exposure into the entire curriculum or teaching experience, then how we expect the faculties to really show the other side of the system or industry side? And there we need some balance, right? So there are some ways that there should be some industry academia exchanges happening on day-to-day basis, so that at least students can know what is really happening. I'm sorry, this person is calling me again and again. Hello? Sorry. So, and the fourth point is then clinical exposure is very, very important in that case. As we discussed before, we know maybe how to make a formulation, how to analyze the formulation. If I'm talking about more research or also the teaching for the undergraduate level, but we have little clinical exposure here. I'm trying to compare. Here I'm trying to compare more regarding the expectation from the industry in terms of the clinical research or clinical settings, and what students is really getting exposed during his curriculum. So maybe this is something can be expected to update into the curriculum. Then unskilled ways of practical and lab training in the institute, again this is something can be updated to make sure that what is needed from the industry point of view, maybe it's a formulation, maybe it's analysis, or maybe it's pharmacological assay, for example. So are we really updated in terms of all those biases, even to give an example? Then the research outcome from the Indian educational labs, this is very, very limited, and the expectations of commercialization from this or revenue generation are very, very less. Of course, there are expectations, there are exceptions, institutes like IITs or ISC, maybe ICTs, for example, ICT Hyderabad, that these elite institutes are able to deliver some commercial products, but what about the rest of the institutes? So maybe that mindset is needed, in order to come up with something which is really interesting from the unmet medical point of view. And to deliver that, naturally, then we need the trained manpower there. And let's talk about a little bit of industry expectations. So regarding technical competence from the graduate candidate, we expect that he should have the important fundamental subject essentials. He should have the ability to acquire new skills on training. The postgraduate student must have the basic understanding of the research methodologies he has to use the basic equipments in terms of the drug product or the analytical part. He or she should know the softwares we are using, maybe the statistical analysis. There's the QBD is quite common, or the design of expense is quite common. Even for the to run the dissolution studies, these days we use a lot of software. So it is expected that they should have the basic knowledge. And most important, they should be able to execute this task as per the norms. When I say norms, these are more regulatory norms. So maybe the dosage need to be filed in India, maybe in Europe, maybe US. So what are the regulatory authorities expecting? And this is something must be known to these people. Doctoral candidate we already discussed before, but just to touch the base, that they should be able to lead the research teams in a novel way. Scientific leadership must be there. They should be able to come up with novel ideas, and we need some adaptive and flexible mindset there. And when it comes to deliver the quality work, then there are expectations that they should be able to meet the specifications, the compliance norms. The integrity of the project data is very, very important. We don't want any breach of data there. So the room for manipulation is almost zero. Otherwise, this is a clear no-go. And then there should be ways to maximize the efficiency and flexibility. One must come out of the comfort zone, try to really give his best in order to reach the timelines, in order to get the deliverables without compromising the quality. And we need some analytical and risk-based decisions, that often that we are supposed to take some decisions, because if we are not able to decide at that particular point, the project will get hampered to the significant impact, and this is not, let's say, acceptable. In terms of project management, and these are soft skills, right? So whenever the students are going to the interview, normally the recruiter is asking about soft skills. So they should have the critical thinking. They should be able to set the priorities. Analytical skills are very important to set any problem. They must need the analytical skills. Budgeting is very important. Imagine if I've been given my company the budget of 2 million euros for any sterile formulation of small molecule, then I must know how much it should be spent on the API analysis, how much it should go to pre-formulation part, then the formulation optimization, and then the GMP manufacturing followed by release. So just to give an example, so this kind of budgeting we are discussing. Problem solving skills we discuss quite a lot, and most important, time management. Because I can give example, I run this consultancy company in India. When I am here, often I try to give some projects to the students. I mean, that's quite important because students are flexible. They are also, they get some money out of that. That is interesting. But in terms of the time management, it's horrible. If I tell them, okay, I want this work in 2 weeks, are you able to deliver? They will say, yes, I'm able to deliver. But imagine maybe it's not happening for 4 to 6 weeks, 2 months, and every day one needs to remind them. So this is all about time management. Most important, I think one should be very clear. If he or she should not be able to do it, then it's quite okay. Somebody can say, okay, I'm not able to do in 2 weeks, but okay, 4 weeks I can manage. But once that commitment is given, then expectation from the industry is quite high. Then one must respect those timelines, and there is no room for the delay regarding the timelines. This is very, very important. And then it comes to resources utilization. So resources, they are in the form of the budget, the team members, or the facilities you might have in terms of executing the project, and then one should be able to utilize the resources. Operational planning is very important in order to define which particular step should be executed at what point. And then cost-effective strategy implementation. We don't want to make our product at the end of the day very expensive, so we should always try to find a solution. Where are the ways how we can reduce the cost of the product? And most important, we should be able to foresee the deviations. I mean, what could really not go as per our expectation? If it is happening, what should be our plan B, and how we are able to mitigate that risk? And then little bit about the bridging of the gap between the academia and industry. So we have to align the curriculum with the industry requirement. We should really emphasize on the skill-based education. We should also think of upskilling the faculty. And I think this ATAL FDP program is a very good example. We are sitting here. This is one way, we should always try to upskill the faculty. So they also have got the facility to listen to external experts. What are the expectations on the other side? And this certainly helps them to really replan their activities, rethink their ways of thinking. They should, they are also able to reanalyze, what is really happening, what is expected to be changed, and how it can be delivered on the other side. And then workplace exposure through the internship live projects. So this is also a very interesting example where there are internships where the university students can go to the industry. They try to see how the live projects are working. They have the possibility how the corporate work is really working, and that is really going to help when they come out of academia and go for a job. Then this is really helping them. And what are the ways to bridge these gaps between the industry and academy? So the ultimate solution to solve this problem is that curriculum should be more focused, and then there should be frequent training programs for the students which should be conducted. And these typical approaches are then curriculum revision is very important, which should be focused on more actual practice oriented concepts. So we discussed a lot in the beginning what is really expected from the practical point of view. The curriculum should be adjusted accordingly. And there should be some industry oriented online offline courses. So these days, I mean, the COVID scenario, we have seen that a lot of things are now happening in the e-teaching form. So there's a great scope for this online or offline courses or training programs. So anything you think that is not part of your curriculum, maybe you do not have any in-house faculties, you can always approach the industry experts or the external consultants, and they can always deliver, because now the distance is not barrier. Anyone sitting in Europe or US can deliver a talk on that particular subject where your faculties or students can benefit it. Case studies is always important. You can give any problematic to your students and try to see, okay, this is the situation, how they are supposed to think, how they can bring in the solution. And this way you can really try to simulate what is really happening into the industry and how they are able to get the solutions in future. Decentralized practice-oriented education infrastructures are very important. Why I say decentralized? Because again, it is not going to be into your control. So maybe you can send your students to the industry for 6 months or maybe 1 year, depending on the provisions. So basically, they are using industry facilities there. So I came to know from my ex-colleagues from ICT, they have initiated now some institute industry collaboration where the students can go to the industry, they can work for 6 months more or less there, they can execute the project quite independently, which is not under control of the university, it's more under the control of the industry. But I think it's very helpful for the students, and they're really getting exposed to the industry processes, methodologies, protocols. They have the possibility to interact with the industry colleagues, how on the day-to-day basis they are conducting this, the processes to bring the solutions. As per WHO, the training is very important. It is required if there is a gap between the current status and desired status. So basically, where we are today, what is expectation? What are the expectations for the future? And if this gap needs to be met, then there's some sort of training needed. And this also helps to maintain the level of competence in your faculty so that they are able to deliver to the students. And this is also one way how we are going to respond to new technologies and methods. Here, the role of industry is also very important. They should come forward. They should try to discuss with academia to really align, the curriculum or the courses which is really able to fulfill the industry needs. And having said that, then academia industry interaction should be really encouraged and considered as a part of education. The innovation ecosystem is very, very important. I can give example. As I said before, I was working with DBO Farm. I think Natik said I worked with this Swiss biotech company for 4 years. I also had a privilege to work at the University of Geneva when I was working Pantech Biosolutions. And coincidentally, both these parties now, University of Geneva and Switzerland, DBO Farm, they have entered into this ecosystem type of collaboration, how it works. So basically, DBO Farm is going to put some finance into the university research. University will use their resources, the master student, doctoral student, postdoctoral student, to that particular type of basic research which is of interest of DBO Farm. Any new molecule, any new technology is coming, DBO Farm will use it for commercialize. And interesting thing is that whatever revenues they will get out of this commercialization, the part of those revenues will again go back to the university, so that university will have continuous sourcing of funds to run the basic research. And this is a very interesting example then, how the university has got chance to do something in the field of basic research. They can really focus their students into this basic research before they are going to the industry. And in terms of resources, maybe it's funding, instruments, or even guidance, then they have the possibility to get it from industry. Another important example in this case, that use of information and communication technology, ICT, we say that then in that case, in today's world, it's very easy we can get focused to the classrooms, the virtual classrooms, the online discussions, the mobile learning, etc. So nothing you really need to go back to the library or try to check into the books, but it's very efficient use of the information and communication technologies that students or faculties can get exposed to the industry needs. And then here I tried to list down the different online learning platforms example. And what are future challenges for the industry? So nowadays we are talking more about Industry 4, which is fourth revolution of industry. It's more basically on the cyber physical systems. So it also involves the 3D printing. You already have the FDA approved for 3D printing. Lots of companies have already started working in that field. And one of the example of the cloud computing, we have already seen the COVID scenario. So first we were troubling a lot where the beds are available, which are the, let's say, the centers for RT-PCR, which are the centers, for example, screening, etc. So what do we do basically cloud computing? So we try to really connect all these sources or facilities together, and you can see live update. So at the end, maybe in the second wave, we have seen that it was we were able to see at least at which hospital there is a supply of oxygen, how many beds are available. So that's typical example of cloud computing, and that's where the industry or fourth revolution of industry is going to happen. And this is also, let's say, the take-home message for the faculties, that this is what we are really looking forward for future, and how then we are able to expose our students to these areas so they are really able to face the challenges. So the main potential of this industry for the specialized solution for each sector. So typically we are dealing with the pharma sector, health sector, but its application also for other sectors. And this we can also think of specific products for low production volumes, because nowadays the concept of personalized medicine is also coming into the picture. So what is the personalized medicine? So in today's era, the medicines are more for the public at large. It's applicable for every, let's say, individual which is affected by that particular disease. But if I say personalized medicine, it's really depending on your genetic sequence. So when I was in Swiss, the Nestle was working in that particular area. So in that case, what they try to do really, based on your genetic sequence, they try to really tell you what specific food is needed for you, which is really good for your health. And that's how they are trying to also develop the medicines, because one medication may not work for every patient, and that's the focus overall. And if it is more personalized medicine, you don't need to manufacture really in the big volumes, maybe very low volumes needed, and that's what I tried to cover it here. And then, of course, there is increase in the competitiveness. Flexibility is also needed quite high. And the work-life balance is very important. That maybe more and more things are done by the softwares, and then that will give some rest to the employees, for example. Then there are two tools getting very important: artificial intelligence, machine learning. If I try to give some examples for artificial intelligence, maybe most of you, or some of you at least, you know computer-aided drug design. That is a very good example of artificial intelligence, where we try to dock the receptors and we try to see how the particular molecule is binding to the receptors, and that's how we try to know its efficacy, or it should not be also toxic, because we do a lot of in silico analysis to reduce the toxicity. Machine learning is very important. Again, they try to use the typical algorithms and statistical models in order to perform any specific task without using a lot of instructions. So it's more, let's say, automatic way of working, but this will also get quite a lot of importance into the future. So basically, how we are able to create the workforce for the future, and in that case, it's for the industry at least, it's very important to reskill their employees to address the talent gaps, And from the university point of view, if you don't want industry to reskill their employees, if you can convince the industry, okay, we are able to deliver the skill staff, then they have to really think then how they are able to implement the changes which industry is facing into already curriculum. So from industry point of view, I can give example. Okay, so far we are working small molecules, typical conventional dosage forms, tablets, capsule, oral solution, parentals. But if I'm working typical area of cell or gene therapy, then maybe the conventional dosage form may not work, the conventional way of synthesis may not work, and I have to totally then change the way of production, the way of research, and that there's a skill mismatch. And more than 80% of pharma companies, they are facing this issue of skill mismatch, and they have to invest huge amount of money and time to skill their employees. So if they have to remain competitive in this area, then they must address this workforce skill, or they have to fill this gap by ensuring that their employees are able to get this desired skill set, and they are able to operate so that they are able to deliver the solutions at the end of the day. And there's a three-phase approach to identify and fill in the skill gaps. So basically scouting. So in this case of scouting, they have to at least define in which areas their employees are not skilled. And based on that, they can identify the sector of employees, the sector of area, and then this, once the scouting is done in the second area, then they have to really implement the reskilling. They have to invite the external experts. They have to organize the workshops in order to make sure. Maybe they have to do some practical workshop. I can also say that their employees are really able to get exposed to the typical skill set which is lacking. And once it is done, at the end of the day, you have to shift this skill set to the place of work where it is exactly needed. So with this, I would like to conclude. Then professional education reform is very important to bring the unique knowledge, skills, and new perspective in the current education system. And this is mainly related to curriculum, reform, as we discussed before. What we are really able to bring into the curriculum in order to make it more updated. Industry academia gap need to be bridged to this curriculum revamp or changes, and there's a more active and management needed between these two sectors. And upskilling is very important. Maybe it's for faculty, students, or even on our side, it's more from the industry employees, so that we are able to create a global future workforce. Having said that, then I will finish my talk, and I really hope that you were able to enjoy it. So if there are any questions, comment, I'm more than happy to answer.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Tell me.
Okay. So thank you for your nice presentation. What I found in your presentation that you have really enlightened us how to minimize the gap between industry and the academia. Actually, being the academic person, although my background is not the pharmaceutical, but background is engineering, but we are trying to reduce the gap between the industry and academia, but challenge our case. That is the maintaining of the curriculum. That means the covering of the syllabus within the semester duration, and also the linking with the industry. So still we are trying to send our student to industry for some internship and some other live project. But other than this, can you suggest us so that we can any other things? I have found many things in your presentation, but can you suggest so that we can manage the time between the semester courses and the industry interaction?
So I think one of the thing you can always do, I mean, of course, it's question of time, as you said, and this is also a big challenge. As I said, a lot of things are quite theoretical.
Yeah. Sir, everything is got your presentation, and very nice. Thank you, nice presentation, and it is really helpful for us also. But only challenge is that the managing of the time, because nowadays.
Exactly.
Yeah, nowadays the faculty member are not only involved in only the teaching, but they are also involved in some other administrative work in the institute. So again, they need to interact with the industry. So that is very challenges to us. Anyway, so we are trying to our most giving our efforts so that we can minimize the gap between industry and the industry for the benefit of the student and also for the society.
Yeah, I'm quite sure about that.
Anybody else have any doubt? Then directly ask to the sir. So respected sir, on behalf of the entire team of faculty development program, I really thankful to you. I specially arranged this session because to overcome the gap between the academia and the industry. And you rightly said, sir, that practical training and lab training is essential in academia, so we can overcome the gap between the industry and academia. Sir, thanks again to giving your valuable time from your busy schedule. Sir has busy with their low examination. Then and then he has assured me that he will give the session. So once again, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Ruth, for the invitation, and thank you all the listeners for patiently listening me. Thank you.
And sir, this is the certificate from our side. We will send it in your mail with the thanks letter today night. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will take care later. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Our next speaker is Dr. Ritesh sir, and they will give the presentation on at 2:30. So I request to all kindly join at 2:30. Till that there is the break.